I call this meeting to order. This is a Livingston Parish Council meeting. Today is February the 7th, 2019. It is a few minutes after 6:30. I would ask that everybody silence their cell phones, put them on vibrate, so that we cut down on any loud disturbance. Okay, first order of business is invocation. Mr. Scooter King, let's stand.
Yeah, I would like to ask our clerk of court, Mr. Jason Harris, to come pray for us tonight.
All right.
Let us pray. Dear Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this council and the citizens who showed up today. We just thank you for our ability to come and get things approved and express our beliefs. We pray for Officer Toddy as he was laid to rest today in the Baton Rouge Police Department. We ask that you be with us during this meeting, and let's do it nothing but glory and honor for you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I'd ask Mr. Bubba Harris to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, public input. Anyone wishing to address any agenda items as they come up, what you need to do is raise your hand and we'll call upon you. And tonight we're going to give 2 minutes for each individual that so chooses to talk tonight on each agenda item. Okay? I would also like to say that when you go to talk about these agenda items, if a particular subject matter has already been brought up for discussion and talked about, let's try not to repeat. So let's pay attention, stay focused as the constituents come up to talk about that particular agenda item. You know, let's not repeat the same discussion over and over and over. Okay? Thank you for your help on that. All right. So we don't have any. Say that again.
Call a vote.
Oh, did I skip that?
That's all right, we'll get
Okay. Sandy, can you do the roll call?
Yes, sir.
I apologize.
Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. Matt.
Here.
Mr. Averitt.
Here.
Mr. Lidwell.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Here.
Sit here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
All present.
All right. No presentations tonight. All right. Item number 8. It's going to be to adopt a resolution to authorize the parish president to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Livingston Parish Council, the Louisiana Department of State, the Office of Secretary of State, the Livingston Parish Register of Voters, the Livingston Parish Clerk of Court, to add an additional early voting location at the Denham Springs Library location. Mr. Jason Harris, Livingston Parish Clerk of Court, and Mr. Giovanni, how you pronounce that? Apologize. Can you say that? Tyrov, Livingston Parish Library Director. Could y'all come up and talk a little bit about this memorandum?
Thank you, Mr. Mack. I want to introduce everybody. First, I'm Jason Harris, Livingston Parish Clerk of Court. We appreciate you having us. We have Jared Andrews here, our Registrar of Voters. We have Giovanni here from the libraries, and we have Mr. Joe Salter. Kyle Ardoin is our Secretary of State. He is sick, wasn't able to make it, so he sent Mr. Salter, who is his first assistant, the Louisiana Secretary of State. We've been discussing this for a while. The need is there for an early voting site, we believe, on the western side of Livingston Parish. That's been shown through the years. We had an early voting site at Jubilee Crossing in 2016 after the flood. It was a presidential election, and I believe I have my numbers right. Jared can correct me, but I believe there was over 11,000 people who voted at the early voting site and about 5,000 here at the Livingston site. I want to be clear, we are not shutting down the Livingston early voting site. This will remain. We're just trying to make it more convenient to make it easier for people to vote on the western side of the parish, specifically Denham Springs, Walker, Watson, Port Vincent area. They may not want to drive to Livingston, but maybe they'll go to the library and vote. So we're hoping to have this open for April 20th. There is an election May the 4th, so early voting will be April 20th to April 27th. So we come to the council. Some of y'all have probably read the memorandum of understanding. That's been drafted, agreed on by all the parties here, and I would open up for discussions. I'm gonna let anybody want to chime in and ask any questions or answers. Jared can answer more specific questions on early voting than I can, because the registrar of voters are really in charge of the early voting process. So I don't want to take any more time. I just want to open up. If you have any questions, or if y'all need to say anything, feel free.
You said you had 11,000 voters at early voting at the Juban Crossing, and you had 5,000 voters early voting in Livingston Parish. Is that correct?
In
At Livingston, at the Livingston early voting. That's correct.
Correct.
So, normally, what's the total number of votes you think when they're just early voting in Livingston?
Before the presidential, the most we've ever had is 8,000 total.
Total, and this was 16,000.
17 and some change.
You know, this is probably one of the first times I recall voting early. It was very convenient. And I believe that, I speak for myself, and I imagine this has parts to do with being on the west side of the parish, but it was very convenient. And I want to commend you for putting something together for this. I think, so if it's successful, then this will become a permanent thing?
Yes.
Yes, we would like for it to. We're going to see how it works out. The May 4th election is not a large election, but we all know the fall is a large election. So we'd like to go get it ready for the May 4th and work out the kinks, whatever we may need to change and get ready for the fall. And I do want to give kudos to the Secretary of State and Kyle Ardoin, so they have to put their blessing on it before we can go through any of this. So Secretary Ardoin is 100% behind this, and he sent Mr. Salter here to represent him. So it's a collaboration between the Parish Council and the Registrar of the Library. They've been very gracious enough to let us use that facility.
Well, on behalf of the library, of course, and on behalf of the library board, they unanimously supported this decision. And like I said, for many years, the library is the heart of our community, and we're just more than books these days. And it proves once again that we are there. We are very honored and humbled to participate in this very democratic process. And like I've said before, our libraries are the cornerstone of our democratic society. With our approach, like free approach to and access to information, that people can share opinions and knowledge and resources freely and without any prejudice, or this kind of proves that the library is out there serving its community, and we're just happy to participate in this process.
And I want you to be sure that you're aware that Secretary of State Ardoin does fully support it, and would ask me to be sure and compliment you and the other groups that are involved in this effort. Because without your support in helping to put this together, it wouldn't be possible. Your willingness to, cover some of the costs and so forth like that. So, on his behalf, I want to thank you publicly for all of your efforts.
Thank you.
All right.
I really believe that it's a great thing. You know, a lot of times we have very low turnouts, okay? That is not what we want to see. You know, a lot of people go, oh, yeah, but on low turnout, y'all going to sneak stuff through. That is not ever my goal. We want people to go out and vote, whether it be yes, no, for, or against. The more people that go, the more we know, the better we know our constituency. So I think it's a great thing to have it over there in that area.
Motion to adopt.
I agree.
really appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to adopt this resolution. We have by Mr. John Wascom, and we have a second by Mr. Jeff Averett.
Mr. Mack, I'd like to say something.
Mr. Tracy Gerlinghouse would also like to say something.
No, I just wanted to say, look, anytime you can make, if people wait till election day, then, any number of factors could dissuade them. They go out there and there's this huge line, it's raining, or it's just for the simple fact that it's one day. One day you got to go do it, and something can happen. You could be out of town. I've always liked the early voting concept, and to make it more convenient, only will engage the public more to actually go vote. And I think that I would love to see 100% participation voting, but but anything that would make it to where more people, more citizens get involved in voting is a good thing. And personally, it is a good spot for me because it's very close to my house. So, this is a personal thing, but I just want to say that I fully support this and I'm excited about it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And I would also like to say that it's a pleasure to be a part of giving the people of Livingston Parish the opportunity to be able to make it easier for them to go vote. It's a wonderful thing, I think. So, with that being said, I call for the vote.
Mr. Mr. Wascom,
Yes.
Mr. Talbert,
Yes.
Mr. Mack,
Yes.
Mr. Averett,
Yes.
Mr. Lobel.
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Greenhouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, meeting minutes. 9A, amend the December 20th, 2018 minutes of the regular meeting of the council. I think we can do all of these in one resolution, right? Okay, adopt the January 10th, 2019 minutes of the regular meeting of the council. Adopt the January 24th, 2019 minutes of the regular meeting of the council. Is there any discussion?
I'll make it.
All in? I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Gary Talbert to adopt these minutes. We have a second by Mr. Bubba Harris. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Good. All right. Item number 10, Parish President's Report. We have Miss Jennifer Myers coming up to the podium.
So I am not parish president, but I am filling in for him tonight.
Prettier.
Item number
That's
A,
not hard. No, I didn't mean to be,
Wow.
item A, we're asking for a resolution to confirm the appointment of Cheryl Smith, who used to be our medical director at the jail, to the Florida Parishes Human Services Authority Board. I believe one of our board members rotated off December 31st, and Cheryl has agreed to accept the appointment, and they will confirm her on February 22nd board meeting.
Ms. Smith is an excellent choice. I make that motion.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. We have a second by Mr. Tab Lobel. All in favor? Aye. No opposed? Good. All right, item 10B, proclaim March 2019 as Flood Awareness Month.
Ms. Sandy has so kindly agreed to read this proclamation.
You do not have to vote on this. This is just something that Tony Utro from the Amite River Basin Authority has asked different governing authorities over the vicinity of the Florida parishes to adopt. Whereas the Amite River Basin has been substantially affected by floods in the past and can be expected to be affected in the future, and whereas some of the most devastating floods occur during the spring season of the year, and whereas the citizens, communities, and parishes within the Amite River Basin have suffered substantial losses during those times, and whereas the citizens and individual property owners should be aware of the measures which can be taken by himself or through government to reduce the risk of flood losses. Now therefore, I, Parish President Leighton Ricks, Parish of Livingston, State of Louisiana, do hereby proclaim March 2019 Flood Awareness Month. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused to be affixed the official seal of the Parish of Livingston, Louisiana, on this 7th day of February 2019. And he's got a real pretty seal and he signed it. So, yay!
That's wonderful.
It is now officially March 2019 Flood.
All right. Item number 11, Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Is Mr. Mark Harold in the house tonight? No? All right, we'll move on. All right, item number 12, public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 1904. I will now open the public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 19-04. Miss Sandy, can you read that ordinance, please?
This is proposed ordinance 19-04. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 13, Planning and Development, Section 13-49.6, Requirements for minor subdivisions, by adding provisions to Part B of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston.
All right, we have our chair here, Mr. Gary Talbot, very familiar with the modifications of this ordinance. Do you want to have something to say about this, to kind of explain what's going on, Mr. Gary?
I would just, nobody wants to speak.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to discuss this? Well, come up to the podium, ma'am, and state your name and address, pretty please. And
I just have a question.
Okay.
Carla DeYoung, 31185 Walker Road North. They're changing it to 12,000 square feet, is that right?
If you have water reduction behind your mechanical sewer treatment plant.
Can you have spray irrigation?
Spray irrigation, either one, it'll work.
right.
Okay.
You gotta have water reduction though. I mean, that's the deal. You know, so like, I mean, I thought spray irrigation was something we really used on commercial, but unless you don't
I
have.
don't know, in
addition-
North Louisiana, that's what we use up there, so I don't know, they don't do it much down here,
Basically,
but.
if you have water reduction behind your mechanical, then you can go to 12,000.
And the sprinkler system does qualify for that.
Qualify, if you got enough land for the sprinkler system to work. I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 on the sprinkler system, meaning if if DHH will let you sprinkle on a 12,000 square foot lot, then that's good. But typically down here, we just use the water reduction pipe, behind it. And so that works within a 12,000 square foot.
So if you've got a ditch on somebody else's property, you've got to get permission from them.
You gotta get permission to drain to it. You gotta, if the ditch is, if you don't face a public road ditch and you've gotta go through somebody else's property, then yeah, you gotta get a dedicated servitude to get to it.
Okay, but if the sewer people say 12,000 square foot is enough to put a spray irrigation, then you can do
Then
it.
the 12,000 would work.
Okay.
Any more discussion from the audience? All right, any discussion from the council?
Can I just say something?
Yes.
When this was introduced, on January 24th, it was introduced on the agenda as 13-49.3. It was just a tiny error instead of .3. Should have been .6 on the agenda, but it was read correctly by title as 13-49.6, just for the record.
So I think there's no objection. I make a motion that we second pass it.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Gary Talbot. Oh, I gotta close the public hearing. So, I'll now close the public hearing.
Now make the motion.
Now, Mr. Gary Frog Talbot has made a motion to adopt this ordinance. I have a second by Mr. Jeff Ard. All right, I call for the vote.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
And it passes.
All right. Item number 13. Department of Public Works, Mr. Sam D. Geronimo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're getting finished with what we're doing on our first road overlay here this year. We need to amend our 2017, and at this time, I'd like to bring our engineer on up here that's on hand to identify the roads that we need to amend and do, and we need to approve a new work project.
Thank you, Mr. Sam. The first item is A, amend the current road program. So we had some extra money, and we would like to add 3 additional roads to the current program that's under construction, just roll right into construction. The first road would be South Satsuma Road Phase 1 from I-12 south all the way to Draper McMorris. The second road would be Bonnie Blue Drive all the way, the whole road from 447 all the way to Millstone Drive. And the third street would be Texas Street, which goes from Red Oak Road to South Range Road. Pre-design estimates is around 1.5, 1.6. Once we get in to see what drainage is involved, we'll get an exact number for you.
But that was left over from the original.
It wasn't left over, it was actually additional money that has been added this past year. So, and we've kind of got a verbal to start on that, but we just need to kind of do
I
some
make the
housekeeping.
motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Gary Talbot. We have to amend the current 2017 road program. We have a second by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. I call for the vote.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
All right, 13B, approved 2019 road program list.
All right, same thing. I think y'all have that in front of you. This will be 17 roads, approximately 18 miles of roadway. We're estimating pre-design about 6.5 million. Once we get it actually designed, we can tighten those numbers up and see if we have room to add any more roads. So we'd like to go ahead and approve this road list, and so we can get started immediately.
I'll make a motion. We adopt this road list for 2019.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. John Wascom to approve the 2019 road program list. We have a second by Mr. Bubba Harris. I call for the vote.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Gurley-House?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Judge.
Item number 14, Planning Commission recommendations, Mr. Sam DiGeronimo, 14A Starwood Knoll, preliminary site plan.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is a multifamily development, named Starwood Knoll Preliminary Site Plan, Mr. Jeff Averett's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Starwood Knoll.
All right.
Hey, hey,
I would like to say a little something and then ask Mr. Billy Taylor to come up and go over the changes to the original preliminary plat. I would like to say that 2 or 3 weeks ago, this particular item came up on the agenda and there was a lot of discussion. A lot of people had a lot of concerns. Some of those concerns were drainage, sewer difficulties, concerns. There was traffic flow concerns. One of them was, where would the children be able to go to school? Overcrowding of the schools. I would like to say that in that particular meeting, the developer and the engineer had verbally committed to making some changes to accommodate all of those concerns, to work with the public. The preliminary plat was denied at that meeting. The developer and the engineer went back to the drawing board and they addressed all of those concerns to the best of their ability. The drainage concern will be addressed in the gravity drainage study impact, the drainage impact study. The school concerns will be addressed by the school board. The main concern was the traffic flow. The preliminary plat has been modified to where the main entrance now comes out on State Highway 447. The sewer concern has been addressed. They are now planning and in negotiations with the Livingston Parish Sewer District to tie their sewer into that sewer system. They also, Billy will have more information, but for all in the surrounding area, especially the people of Woodland Crossing, they're going to build, I think, a 9-acre park for the children to play. You can picnic out there. They're planning to make this a nice development, to the best of, from what I'm being told. That being said, if you have some concerns that you'd like to discuss tonight, you're welcome to come on up. We're going to try to be fair to all and give people 2 minutes. But let's, once again, try to be professional, try not to repeat ourselves, and let's move forward. Now, Billy, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, sir. I think you described everything very well. Mr. Gary's initial letter we proposed at last meeting, he did offer the connection to 447. Did offer set aside the park area for Starwood Knoll as well as Woodland Crossing residents. And that wasn't on the plat you had in front of you, so we went back and we added that. So just a couple things that we're going to go over that we did change. One, added the entrance to 447. I think that's the most important revision. That's whatever, the main concern that we could address at that time, so we've added that. One thing that we talked about and added or took away that nobody asked for, we reduced the number of units from 152 to 144. Behind some of these lots, there was a 3-story building, and we were talking, said most people walk out their back door in a subdivision and they have a wooded, wood fence up there and they can see some rooftops. It might look a little different if you had a 3-story building right there, so we said it'd be better to have a single-story rooftop so they didn't see the same thing that everybody else seen. So nobody asked him to do that, something he offered. I thought it was another thing in good faith that he's trying to work with the neighbor. trying to be very respectful of their concerns and try to address them. So that's that. And then, we've kind of went back and forth on this a lot, and there's a lot of concern and talk about connection to Bonnie Blue. You guys have discussed this, not for this project, but just been working on the ordinance and ordinance committee meetings with connectivity. At the planning commission meeting, we talked about putting a gate. The first time we were there, we didn't. We said, and this time we said we thought about it, and I've just had a lot of conversations with, we got people that, the first thing they got us thinking, we sent our plat to the school board, and they said, well, we had a gate on there. They said, well, how are we going to turn our buses around? So, we got some people there, we got to turn them around, go all the way back out to 447. So I got thinking about that, I said, well, is there a way we can give you a clicker or a keypad or do something, where we can try to make these people happy and try to still do the best for the school system? He said, that doesn't really work. Clicker battery might not work, or if we get a substitute bus driver, if you have a keypad, you got to get out the bus and do it. You can't do it from the bus. He said, that just doesn't work. So we offered that. So anyway, I think what we're proposing is just our main entrance, getting on 447. We're asking for a secondary connection on Bonnie Blue for school buses, fire trucks, ambulances, emergency service, garbage service, all this, and that's what we're asking. So, if you decide something different, we'll be happy to talk about that. And I just wanted to say this too. A lot of people, they feel if they meet the ordinance and that's it, and they don't feel like they need to work with the neighbors. I think Mr. Gary did. It's going to cost them a couple $100,000 extra, at least just for the roadway, not counting any drainage that he might have to put in. He's going to spend a lot of money on a park, so he's putting a lot of effort to try to work with these people. And not a lot of people do that. They just say, hey, I don't have to work with you, I'll meet the ordinance. So I just like to point that out, and wherever we go from here, we're going to be respectful of their concerns and try to address them the best we can. And some things we can't control, but if it's something we can, we'll try. So just want to mention that we do meet all the ordinances, and it's been approved by the planning commission twice. So we'd like to ask for your approval tonight. I'm going to sit down and I'll listen to any concerns they have, and if you need me to get back up to address them at the end of it, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. All right, is there any discussion from the audience? All right, come on up. And just don't forget to state your name and your address. We're going to go 2 minutes. Thank you so much.
My name is Richard Boudreaux. I live at 26310 Robindale in Woodland Crossing. And I purchased my home on Woodland Crossing, or actually purchased the property. I was the first one in the second filing on Robindale, and the first one on Robindale Drive. And there were no houses on Bonnie Blue at all at the time. And that was in 2005. And prior to, oh, by the way, I currently work at Syngenta in St. Gabriel. I'm the principal environmental engineer at the site, and I've been working at that site for 31 years. I've been working in the environmental industrial area with other companies and Syngenta now for 49 years. I got my degree at USL, bachelor's degree, and my master's in environmental management at LSU. And I wanted to document my opposition to this project, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. You are elected members of the community, and so I know that you are reasonable people because you have to be in order to be elected. So, and if you confer with the Collegiate Dictionary, a reasonable person is someone who looks at the facts, looks at the rules, and also uses logic and common sense to come to a final conclusion. So, and in order to be elected, you had to have that trait. So what I wanted to point out is that the facts, number one, all the people in Woodland Crossing the 3 filings, almost 1,000 people, they're against this. And there's reason to be against this. The reason is, there are several reasons. Number one, they are concerned that their property values will drop because of a 144-unit apartment complex being constructed almost in the center of the subdivision, almost in the center of the second filing. In fact, it's, as the crow flies, a few hundred feet from my home. So the second, the fact that they're against it, why? Why are they against it? Because they're concerned that their property values will drop significantly after this starts. And secondly, that the security of the area will drop, because that kind of development will foster a less desirable community of people. And the other reason that I think has been discussed already is the infrastructure. The infrastructure of that small subdivision cannot support another 152 units or 144 units, especially right in front of 2 stormwater ponds. Just west, within a few feet of this development, are 2 large stormwater ponds, right adjacent to my house, between my house and the development. And during the flood of August 2016,
Can I say something?
okay, I don't, let
I
me
don't
make
wanna
sure
interrupt
you.
you. I just want you to know you're about 2 minutes over 2
Okay,
minutes.
let me explain. During the flood of August 2015, where this building, this project is being built, there was 2 to 3 feet of water in the exact spot. And that water had crept up through the stormwater ponds up to my property, and within 6 inches to a foot, my whole property would have been flooded. So what's going to happen here is my property in the next rain event like this, like we had, it's going to flood, no question. And so I plead with you, to try not to use reasonableness, that the definition of reasonableness, in making a decision on whether this should go forward. And remember that there's one person that wants this, or 2, maybe the McLean people and Lewis, okay? But there's over 1,000 that are against it, and they fear for their properties. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Mr.
much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, once again, let's try to keep it to 2 minutes. The gentleman with the black hat.
Ray Thrall, 12933 Bonnie Blue. My main concern, Shane, is the meeting last night we had. Now I'm very disappointed, and the residents of Woodland Crossing are very disappointed. We had a little discussion last night. The gentleman just spoke. He called the council unreasonable, which is not really bad to me. One thing led to another, gavel came down. Joe said this part of the meeting is over. We'll take a vote. I don't think that's fair. They cut us off. I had questions from last night. I never got the chance to ask. And what I saw was only 2 or 3 people left to ask a question. Now, you guys, I can see you don't want to be coming up here, people bitching, but you know what? You gotta understand our concerns, okay? What's an inconvenience for you for a couple days is going to be an inconvenience for me for the rest of the time I'm living in Woodland Crossing. I live right there next to the entrance they proposed emergency exit. I don't know who's going to determine this emergency exit, if they can change their mind and all of a sudden they can use this exit anytime they want. And it just didn't sit well with me. I wish you guys would consider, only thing I hear is you're time limited, you run over this, you run over that. But you're a council member, you should understand this, this is part of your territory. You should be able to at least listen to half the people that have concerns. Because what concerns me, this is probably the last time we're going to meet. I wish you guys would just consider the way we feel standing here. I know most of you do. But I just felt like we got the wrong deal last night. I don't know if Joe has the right temperament for that job. That's the second time I saw that man lose his temper in 2 meetings. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you. I'd like to say something about that. Mr. Joe's a good man, I know him. He felt like he was being insulted and felt like he had to close the meeting.
The guy just expressed his opinion.
Right.
He has the right to do that, but he had no right to shut that meeting down.
Okay, so if anybody else want to say anything? Come on up.
My name is Sandra Cormier, 26284 Robindale Drive. I'd asked to speak last night after he had his little fit. He said we spent 2 hours on it 2 weeks ago. Well, that was old information. This was new information, but I wasn't given a chance to speak. Mr. Boudreaux called nobody's name. He said unreasonable people in Livingston Parish. Now, I could take that. I live in Livingston Parish. Anybody could have. But he threatened, and he did it just like that. Very unprofessional, very, very unused of power. Okay, enough of that. The emergency exit they talked about last night would be locked, and it would be only for policemen and fire, and there would be a little, their siren would trigger it. That's what they said last night. Tonight I hear the school buses. So what is that about? Or the school buses, because that's new information from last night. Last night it was to be locked, and it was only for fire and police. Tonight we're hearing school buses. And on that same thing as this park, first of all, how many times do you see kids in parks anymore? They're sitting inside doing this, you know. But if we wanted to get to that park, if that's a gated, locked, how are we supposed to get to that park?
Good point.
So, you know, there's some inconsistencies that are not adding up. And I just wanted to state that, and I wanted to state again that, you know, I am really embarrassed. And I sent an email, which I got no answer to. But anyway, I'm embarrassed by the commission last night, by the planning committee, whatever it was. I respect you guys. Different.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
You'll have to forgive me. My voice is trying to leave me, so I'll do my best here to be heard. My name is Deidre Sellers. I live at 26025 Burlwood Avenue. My concern, last time I spoke in front of y'all, is the same. I believe this is a backwards action. We need the opportunity to fix our infrastructure and the zoning and stuff that we have prior to stacking on. I know we've already talked about sewage coming up in people's houses. We've talked about the gas truck that's parked at the end of our neighborhood because we can't heat our homes, and they want to stack onto that. And we're not okay with that. And it's not just Woodland Crossing. It is also people off of 447 that showed up last night. It is starting to become a parish-wide issue. We still have not gotten a price point for these proposed rental units. I would love for somebody to tell me that. We keep asking, and we're not told. I understand that in Ascension Parish they were able to get a moratorium on building until they got something done, some sort of wheels rolling. I would ask that that also be considered here. As far as the master plan, it's my understanding that there is in fact a master plan that was, tax dollars were spent in order to achieve that master plan, and that I would encourage the council to implement ordinances that substantiate the master plan, and the Planning and Commission should then direct and approve all developments from that master plan basis. We've already talked about the infrastructure. I would like to have seen the environmental impact studies done first. It's not one of those let's pass it and see what's in it things. We can't do that. Now, I have also come with a solution that has been put up in front of me this evening, and I've not had a chance to research it, or even if it is viable. But I come to you today with something with regard to the school board that has desperately expressed their need for a school in a certain location around that area. If Mr. Lewis has previously shown himself to be such a philanthropist, wouldn't he be interested in another tract of land that is actually in an opportunity zone, which, as my understanding, is a census tract designated by the state and federal governments targeted for economic growth? There is one, in fact, over that matches that on Florida Boulevard, and I have that was given to me this evening. I'd be happy for y'all to take a look at that if you're interested. I'm sure that through subsidies and good neighborly type getting along and actually going at the goal of making Livingston Parish better, that is a possible solution for the future. One other thing I want to put out there is that property taxes are driven by property values. And if this does in fact plummet our property values, are y'all willing to give us the tax credits and reduce our property taxes? Are you willing to take that cut? If 1,000 homes or 800 homes are reduced, because I know that there's a mass exodus right now because people are scared of this. People's homes are going up for sale. I've seen one particular home be reduced in price 3 separate times in just the last month or so. People are scared and trying to get out. I just got here. I'm going to stand and fight. But that's what we're basically we're looking at right now. And I beg of you to look into more solutions before you go forth, because I think either way you're looking at lawsuits from both sides, depending on which way you vote this evening. And I'll go ahead and give you this map that I was given this evening, and I hope that we can work something out.
Billy, do you know approximately how far the entrance on 437 is proposed from Bonnie Blue? How far down the road is that? About? I can't tell on the map, you know.
I think it's a few thousand feet. Because it's Bonnie Blue, so you gotta around that big curve and come back. So,
okay.
Billy, y'all gonna have to go through the whole state procurement deal with respect to entrance and all that reuse deal, filling out, traffic study and.
Get some right spots.
Okay.
I will. How y'all doing?
Hey.
I'm Patrice Joyner, 25718 Palmwood Court. I've heard, I'm the Phase 2 HOA president, and I've heard a lot of concerns about people that are live in our neighborhood that are retired. I myself am retired, Army. And so the biggest concern that we have now, what I'm finding out from everyone, is if the value is going to go down. And a lot of them are older, and myself, I'm still old, but I'm saying I'm young. But the thing is that our values would go down, as well as trying to get monies to move out. If we decide to move, we won't be able to move. A lot of us won't. We're just stuck because of this new development. So we just want to ask y'all not to approve this, Mr. Everett. Please, I'm just speaking for my constituents in my neighborhood, and I'm just asking y'all to do so because I'm from New Orleans. I happen to move to Livingston Parish for a quieter area, because New Orleans is always noise. And my last news station was Fort Hood, and there was a lot of noise there too. And I just wanted to hear nothing but birds and fish running around, and I got that. And now I don't want to have to move again which I can't, because my monies are already tied into my house already. So why would I want to move again? And I'm asking y'all not to allow us to have that, make that option to move. So just please vote it down. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? I have a motion by Mr. Gary Frog Talbot to approve the preliminary site plan for Starwood Knoll. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mr. Scooter King.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, we have a question by Mr. John Watson.
Mr. Taylor, did you happen to recall or know of what the cost of the renting?
That was one of the things that we talked about when we were talking about, emergency access, this, that, and the other. And garbage trucks and just public service for, we're trying to address people with their concerns. We live there now. In 5 or 10 years down the road, you're gonna have other people that live there too, so you gotta think about that too. So for school buses to be able to get in and pick up children from both communities, garbage trucks, and also if we're offering it, a park or a lake or whatever we come up with for everybody to use, or if somebody's children wants to go play with each other and can't get in because there's a gate, that's all that was thought into when we said we want to make it a non-gated secondary entrance. So we're not going to gate the park off, to answer your question.
Okay.
So, Billy, out of curiosity, the lady had the question, I can't remember her name, with respect to, the access deal on Bonnie Blue. Is it my understanding that the school board is the one that kind of responded, basically they didn't want that? They didn't want the T-turn, they wanted the access through the facility so that...
They responded to us, yes, we showed it to them first, we just showed it as a gated entrance, and the traffic department called and said, we'd like access through both, or at least a spot to turn around. So we showed a T-turn and satisfy that requirement, but I just feel that for the overall betterment of both communities down the road, we're asking not to gate it.
Okay, do you know if Mr. Lewis is, what rec district does that area fall in? Does it reside in 5? Does it, or?
I mean,
honestly, recreation district number 1, which I'm not sure if it's active or not, but.
So it actually resides inside of 1,
Which is unfunded.
Which is unfunded. Okay, I was just wondering if Mr. Lewis had a commitment with the rec district, or he was going to operate it.
I think it's operated by the community.
Through the association or whatever, however it's going to be operated. Okay, I just was curious for clarity's sake how that was going to happen.
And then I think I did hear a comment about school board and donate land, and just for the record, he was a big part of several acres getting donated to the school board in Satsuma. And I think I heard at a meeting the other night right across Buddy Ellis, they have some land set aside for a school in this area, so that's one of the.
Did he donate to those 2 sites off of South Satsuma Road for the junior high and elementary school or whatever?
Yeah, well, I don't know if he particularly owned them, but he did all the legwork and worked with Dingman and Associates, and it was school board, and he helped do some stuff on his land, and they all worked together to get it donated. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Billy, one second. I heard the complaints about the natural gas. I heard something last night on the videos talking about going all electric in these. Was that just a maybe, or?
That's what I've been told, yes, sir. I mean,
Yeah.
if they do it, you have to talk to the gas company, and then there may be, if we can come off of 447, or, they're gonna have to run their pressurized.
That's different.
They'll have to tell.
But I'm talking about the apartments going all electric, and then they wouldn't even need it wouldn't affect the gas flow in this area.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. That's what I thought I'd heard.
I heard that last meeting too, that's what I was told.
All right, so we open the floor back up for discussion. So I'm gonna take one more question from the lady in the gray jacket. She raised her hand, so.
My question or clarification rather was basically with regard to the park. Now all of a sudden we hear that the will not have a gate, and last night it was stated by the gentleman who represented the plat that they decided probably against a park, and in fact maybe just a water feature with a little pond. So I'm just, how much of this are we going to hear that's changing? First we have a gate, then we don't have a gate, then we have a secondary entrance, then it's going to be both entrances are open, and you know, we have our own park in Woodland Crossing. I'm concerned that there just seems to be a lot of bait and switch going on here. And last night we were also told that we're not governed by logic. I would ask that we are governed by logic, in fact. And that was one of your committee members that I'm quoting right now. I think there's a very large concern, and I think that voters will turn out in response to your vote this evening. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Sam, I got to ask you one question, then we're going to call for the vote. Can't they modify the preliminary plat 10% without going back before the planning commission and the council? I want to get that question answered. Can you
modify after the construction is in place?
Right.
It's been designed, and they want to modify it more than 10%, then it comes back to the planning department, and comes back to you guys.
Right.
We hold it every season.
So basically, right now, Sam, as this preliminary plat is, that we have talked about that, the T-turn shown here, that, and it was talked about being gated, and we've kind of clarified tonight based on the school board request is that the gate's not going to be there. Is if they choose to eliminate the T-turn because it's not a gate, that would be acceptable within the guidelines of a modification?
I think so.
Okay, and the fact that he's committed verbally 9 acres for a park, is that an accurate term, Billy? Is that accurate?
It's 9 acres of recreational space.
Recreational space, so, but it's for use of the residents of the subdivision and the residents of the Woodland Crossing and the residents of Starwood Knolls. So if that modification was eliminated, that would increase, that would be a 10% increase that would require it to come back? I'm just trying to get a clarification on
I think anything that's 10% has to come back.
I mean, if we're telling people now that on the drawing, there's a 9-acre recreational facility. If it's left out of the final plat, would that require it to come back before this council?
Well, Gary, would that determine on how big the park is? I mean,
well, in the drawing it says 9 acres, so I'm just trying to figure out if we eliminate a 9-acre park, is it going to have to come back before this council?
You plan on putting a pond on there? Is that where y'all plan on doing detention?
Yeah, we're gonna do detention pond, but do drainage study, I'll determine the size, and we wanna make a nice feature out of that where everybody can use it. Through service subdivision recently, and people are fishing with kids, and they got a basketball court. So anyway, I think this was required based off of what we had, is 1.267 acres. Now we're calling some green areas that we're leaving green recreational space to add all that up, so it's just 8 acres. But I think in our notes over here, the actual usable that we're committed to or we're providing is about 5 acres. Like I say, it could be more. We'll see the parts that we're keeping green, we could put trails through that can be used as well.
So as long as those changes are made within this, we would not require them to come back.
Okay, so as long as
we understand that that's going to be recreational and detention.
Okay, so as long as the area designated green now and retention is left recreation and retention, then we're not coming back. But if they start taking that space away, you're coming back to this council.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Good. Okay, there's been a lot of discussion tonight. I have a motion on the floor by Gary Frog Talbert. I have a second by Scooter King. I call for the vote. Call for the vote.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
No.
Thank Mr. Lobel,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Darlinghouse,
Yes.
Mr. Ard,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
All right. Item 14B.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, you go. No, you go.
Next on your agenda is a commercial development for Miss Edna and Jerry. This is a little, kind of a pickup food place, you know, you drive in, you pick up food, and you leave. This is in Mr. Shane Mack's district, and I think Mr. Shane was at the Planning Commission last night and met Miss Edna. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Edna and Jerry.
Right. Yes, and so let me give you just a little bit of information about it, guys. It's right off of Florida Boulevard. It's on a large portion of property. It's a small development, and it's going to be a drive-through and order, and then you go around the building, and that's where you're going to pick up your food, and it's going to be home-cooked, delicious food. And Miss Edna is not asking for any waivers. It was recommended by the Planning Commission, and I'm in support of this. And I'd like to get a motion by Mr. Jeff Arbor to approve this preliminary plat. I got a second by Mr. Bubba Harris. And is there any discussion?
They need any taste testers?
Any discussion? Any discussion from the council? No?
No objection.
All in favor?
Aye.
No objections?
No
Good.
objection.
Passes.
Okay, next on the agenda is another commercial development. This also is in Mr. Shane Mack's district. Don't touch my hair. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for the development Don't Touch My Hair.
They named that
with a
after
waiver
Ard over there.
on the front setback.
That's what I was thinking too.
I think
it's something for ball guys.
They named it after Jeff, Don't Touch My Hair.
For ball guys.
And I'm sorry I didn't mention this in the previous little commercial development. All this is existed. These buildings that they have there are already there now, and they're just turning them into something else.
That's right. Appreciate that.
I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. We do need to mention one thing, though, before the council votes, but I'm in support of this. They're asking for a waiver, right, Sam? Can you go over that real quick?
This is an existing building that don't meet our setback off the front, off the highway.
But it was existing,
It was
so technically it's grandfathered in, so they don't really need a waiver. So
All right, so I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Gary Frog Talbert. I have a second by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. Is there any discussion? No, good. So all in favor? Aye. Any objections? No. Sandy has a question.
Can I put that in the resolution that this is grandfathered in?
Please do.
Is that?
No.
I don't think that's what you call it.
No.
You just do it as
It's
a
an
waiver.
existing building.
Say that it was a recommendation of the.
We're just granting the waiver,
We just-
approving the
preliminary
development.
plat. Don't touch my hair.
That's right.
Approving the preliminary plat that was approved by
I got
the
a question
planning.
real quick though. Was the building vacant? Was it a vacant building, then they just come in and took it over?
Tracy, I can't answer that honestly. I know the building was there, we checked the building, and that's what they're.
It's irrelevant. If it was an empty building or not, it was just sitting there, now it's not, it's generating money
Now it's gonna be-
providing a
That's right.
service, so,
Agreed.
yes.
That's right. All right, so did we voted on that, right?
Yeah, we,
All right.
Did we vote?
Yeah, we did.
voted.
We did.
We voted.
All right, so 14D, Bethany Church, waiver on paved surfaces. Mr.
Yes,
Sam?
sir. This is a commercial development, as all you guys know. It's on Jubilee Road. It's in Mr. John Watson's district. They're asking for a waiver on a partial part of the pavement, not all of it, just a partial part on the side. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the waiver for Bethany Church Phase 1 and 2, contingent on being paved within 24 months.
Yeah.
He did, I got a phone call from Mr. Gerald, I think, and he told me that they are definitely gonna pave the front by facing Jubin Road. So aesthetically, it'll really be good. He said, he told me most of the the unpaved section will be around in the back.
Is
So-
that like additional parking? Is that
Yes,
what
that's exactly
and
right.
we've done this in the past. as
Okay.
a,
And I just want you to know, I know Mr. Larry Stockstill and his son Jonathan personally, and they're really good people. And it's gonna be a benefit for Livingston Parish when they come in. They really get involved in the community. They do a great job of helping people. And I mean, Bethany is just what's that?
I say, why are you looking at me when you explain?
Well, you might need a little help, Sam. I'm just saying.
So basically, Sam, John's telling us that they're gonna pay phase one, so we don't have to grant a waiver of phase one.
Well,
I mean, so are we gonna pay phase one, or are we not gonna pay phase one? I mean,
What I understood
we're
last
gonna
night.
pay phase one. The waiver's in phase two.
Okay, so
But they're
we don't-
presenting this to the council, to the planning commission, as phase one and two.
But we only waive in phase two.
The side.
Okay, so
That's just a portion of it.
So my question is, if in 2 years they hadn't paved it, what action are we gonna take?
They're gonna come back to the planning commission and back to the council for your approval.
If they hadn't done
If they have not, they decide that the finances are not there, we made it plain last night that they come back to the planning commission, and then it comes back to you guys for approval.
And the only reason I'm questioning this is because, you know, we've done this on occasion. The previous council did it at Hebron, and I don't remember.
Hebron was totally different.
Well, I understand,
That was a forever.
Well, I understand it was a forever, but what I'm telling you is if you go there now, it's not such a nice little deal in the fact that there's grass growing in it, it's not level with the concrete anymore, it's settled. And so I'm just, and then.
Mr. Talbot, these people are gonna maintain this very well. I mean, these are quality people. They'll do a great job for the benefit of the community. I can't believe you would even question this one. I mean, it's a great thing. Why would you oppose this?
Because I've seen, we put a parking lot at Live Oak High School that's limestone, and I can tell you, when they asked to do it again,
I mean, I understand, he's afraid of the precedent, I agree with you though, I mean, they're gonna pave this.
Okay.
You know, but I know that you're afraid of the precedent being set on that. So.
Right, I mean,
yeah.
well, we
But,
had
I mean,
one in my district, a business that we told them no, because of the fact that it had to be paid. But I agree, in this case, it needs to be done.
Thank you.
All right, is there any discussion from the audience? Any more discussion from the council? No? Oh, we do. Oh, come on up. Don't forget to state who you are and where you live.
My name is Jonathan Coffey. I work for Bethany Church. I live in Watson, and I work for Mr. Stockstill, Jared Stockstill, who had called Mr. Wascom the other day and discussed it. It is the rear parking lot. You will not see the parking lot from Jubin Road, and we will pave it in 28 months if that's what y'all require. Of course, we would like a 36-month, but I mean, you know, you never know about the expansion of the church, but whatever y'all tell us, we'll do. If you said no, you need to pave it, we'd pave it now. We would really love the opportunity to get in the building, grow the church, help the community, and then within those 24 months, pave it. We're gonna do the subsurface. The thing that we've discussed with Industrial Enterprises, who is doing our concrete, is concrete all around the 22,000 square feet building. It's a concrete drive and an asphalt parking lot in the front. In the rear, we will have limestone, but they're going to do the subsurface the same as you would do for an asphalt parking lot. And so when we're ready in the 24 months, we're just gonna scrape the top layer and asphalt. So it should be, my daughter goes to Live Oak High School, I understand the frustration. It should be better prepared than what they did there. So I just wanted to share that. I appreciate you guys, and if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. All right, no more discussion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mr. John Moscom to accept this preliminary plat with the waiver on paved surfaces for Bethany Church. We have a second by Mr. Scooter King.
Okay, next on.
Oh, whoa.
I'm sorry.
All in favor? Aye. No, any objection? No, good. All right. Next
Okay,
item.
next on your agenda is a multifamily development. This is in Mr. Gary Talbot's district, Cecil Drive Townhouses. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Cecil Drive townhouses.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to send this back to planning. I've got a concern about the sewer. I talked to, they're showing in the design to be tied into a lift station at the school. And the lift station at the school, I'm told by a sewer district, is at capacity now. It was designed solely for the junior high and elementary school there. And so I'm concerned that the design of the sewer is not up to par. It's not gonna meet the current standard that we have. It's gonna be an adverse effect on the health, safety, and welfare of the community. So I'd like to send this back to planning for a reevaluation of the sewers tie-in.
This your district, Mr.?
Yes.
I'll second.
I have a question. Did this pass planning and zoning last night?
That's what it says.
So they recommended us do it, but Mr. Talbot wants to not do it because it's in his district. And because I supporting council members who know their district better than anyone else, I'd like to second that motion.
It was seconded by.
Okay, well, I'll support it, Talbot.
So we have a gentleman that would like to discuss this matter.
This Sean Homer, he's with Alvin Fairman Associate. He is actually the one doing the.
Come on up, Mr. Sean.
Correct, Sean with Alvin Fairman. Mr. Talbot, in regards to the sewer, we contacted Tessie, who is the organization that runs the sewer for the subdivision. They would not allow us to connect to their system. They said their treatment system is at capacity. They wouldn't allow us to do it. We then contacted Jamie at the sewer district. We met with him, looked over the plans. He gave us authorization and said it would be okay for us to install a lift station on our property and install a force main down to his lift station where it would be taken in by the sewer district.
Well, I talked to Jamie yesterday when we got the deal, and Jamie basically told me that lift station is at capacity, and for it to take any more sewer, that it would have to be upgraded, which they don't have in their budget at this point in time. So, and he's not sure that the force main coming out of that station, the force main coming out of that lift station itself, will take any more capacity. So I'm concerned, given the fact that you said you talked to him, and I talked to him yesterday and was told something different. And I talked to Eddie this morning about the same thing, and he said it very well could need to be upgraded. So, I know that you can go across 16 and tie in there, but that would require a tremendous, 20 PSI, whatever the thing is, the high pressure, because it's a high pressure force main. But my concern is that given what y'all talked about with respect to this thing, that if it was coming back to this council after we had a plan, it would be fine. But this is it. Once it leaves here, we're done. So I'm really concerned about the problems that exist within that subdivision, and the fact that what you're proposing, I'm being told doesn't work. So I would like to go back to planning for a reevaluation.
Mr. Talbot, it's not done once it leaves here. The plans get reviewed by your review engineers.
I understand, but it never comes back to us. And I've got to represent those people that live on Cecil Drive, and those people that live on Libby Drive, and those people that travel up and down that road every day, and those kids that attend that school. And so consequently, I'm being told that the infrastructure there that y'all are trying to tap into is not sufficient. And so I want to send it back for planning for reevaluation.
And I guess the question is, what does planning know about the sewer capacity that's
Well,
out there?
I would suspect that obviously your communication with Jamie and Eddie are not all the same, because they believe that the lift station there doesn't have the capacity. So I don't want this thing approved until we know where the sewer's going, so that we know that community's being protected. So that's why I'm asking it to go back to planning.
And again, I'm not sure what planning has, but could we make the approval contingent upon the sewer district signing off on the...
I would like for it to go back to planning. And if you get the sewer district to sign off in that next 30 days, it can very well come fall.
We have a gentleman with his hand raised.
Before you guys take a vote on, I'm Nicky Knighton, I'm the developer of Knighton Investments. I spoke last week. Okay, so I'm just going to ask a simple question. Can the council disapprove a development based on Mr. Talbert's conversation with I haven't seen this. This is the first I've heard of it, by the way. I'm in contact with Sean every day. I've talked to Tessie. I've also talked to the sewer district. I've also talked to James Ray Clark. I've been in contact with a lot of people, okay? Tessie was our biggest. They said, you know what, you can build any house you want to build. We'll take 400 gallons per day, no problem, right? But we bump it to 6 units and it's like, the world's coming to an end, okay? I don't believe that 6 units, that's 5 additional, actually, they're 1-bathroom units. So what, a 3-bedroom house has 3 bathrooms, or a 4-bedroom house has 3 bathrooms versus 6 bathrooms in a 6 unit. Is it really a humongous deal enough to send it back to planning and zoning that people like Sean Hyman at Alvin Fairgrounds' office aren't knowledgeable enough to get the information correct?
Well, start off with, I'm not asked for this thing to be disapproved at all. I've never asked for it to be disapproved.
You just said send it back.
I asked to be sent it back for reevaluation. Is that a disapproval, or is that trying to make sure we have it straight before we approve it?
That's buying 30 more days.
Well,
that's what it is. We don't know that.
Can I make a
Let's
comment?
be honest.
I talked to Jamie yesterday about some sewage issues, and Jamie begged me to stop development in that area. He said, we cannot keep up, everything's at capacity. Can you please? I said, we can't do that, Jamie. We can't just stop development. I said, now you make sure and let us know if this is a problem anywhere we put in a development in the sewer district, infrastructure is not up to it.
I'll make one more.
That'll hold it up on its own.
I'll make one more statement and then I'll be done. Last month when we were here, it was not a sewage issue, it was a drainage issue. Right? We solved the drainage issue, now it's a sewer issue, right? So this is one council member
it's still a
deciding
drainage.
he don't want it in his market. That's what it all amounts to. Okay? If this was in anybody else's district, you would look at it and you would decide for yourself. Okay? Now, I own the property, I'm a developer, I need to build something on that property. I'm not gonna build a house on it. I can't. It's got a mini storage next door. It's got 8-unit apartment across the street. I got a freaking humongous commercial building behind me. Okay? I don't have a lot of options with this property. Okay? A nice brick townhome is a really good option for this. Okay? That's our best option. And if sewer's an issue, we'll address it. I talked to James Ray yesterday and this morning, okay? And he said, hey, we got a lot of options. We can go down by the school. We can go across the street. He said there's other manholes in the area we can get to, right? That maybe Sean hasn't thought about. Because I'm trying to decide what's best for the community too. Y'all aren't the only ones who try to decide. And last statement, I'm done. I'm proud of you guys, by the way. That last one was a hard one. Okay, I get it, but you know what? The developers and the businessmen of this town, landowners, they bring a lot of jobs, they bring a lot of homes. I employ a lot of people in this parish myself, tons of them, okay? It's not just about a few residents who don't want it next door to them, okay? So let's be honest when we think about it, and let's be honest with ourselves when we say, does 6 bathrooms make a lot more difference than 3 bathrooms? It doesn't make a difference.
Thank you.
Mr. Talbot. So, no, I'm sorry. Thank you, though. So, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what's here. So, you were told by the sewer district that what they're wanting cannot be accomplished. Is that what you're saying? That's what
they believe, that given the current situation with the lift station in front of the schools, that it's not capable of dealing with the capacity that's going to come to it without significant upgrades. To the point, and it's not like changing the pumps, Jamie's concerned that the force main coming out of the lift station doesn't have the capability, if they upgrade the pump, to deal with additional flow into the lift station. So all I'm asking is that either the sewer district signs off on the preliminary plat and we know where it's going, or they find an acceptable deal. Tessie wouldn't sign off because Tessie doesn't have the capability of dealing with a commercial unit at that particular location. So what's on the drawing is a lift station in front, pumping it from one end of Cecil Drive to the other. to tie into that lift station that was put there for the purpose of South Live Oak Elementary and Live Oak Middle School. And so it wasn't a lift station designed to, you know, take a subdivision in or a bunch of commercial buildings. It was designed for those two schools. And so consequently, there is some there's concern on my part, and there is concern at the sewer district that it's not capable of taking the additional stuff. So all I'm asking is that it go back to planning, and that either it comes with a signature from the sewer district, you know, at the next meeting, that they're good, that the lift station's capable, or they have a plan that the sewer district said will work. That's all I want.
And I just have one rebuttal to that. Is this a normal request from the council? To go back to the council to get approval from the sewer? Like, I've been in this parish for a long time, I've never heard that before.
You saw on Knoll whatever last time, that there was Star Knoll, there was an issue with sewer, and we got the issue with the sewer resolved between.
And I was here last month, and last month y'all said y'all had an issue with drainage, so I addressed the issue with drainage, and now I come back this month and it's sewer.
Well, I mean, the issue with drainage is the issue with drainage, period. The reason you didn't get approved last month is because you eliminated a townhome because you were outside the buffer.
I went down.
I know, but you changed the plan. I mean, and to be honest with you, last month you didn't have, the sewer was going to Tessie.
No, it wasn't.
Where was it going last month?
It was the same thing last month.
I don't think last month.
Yes, it was the same last month.
Who's the engineer on that?
Sean Hyman.
Sean.
Alvin Bever.
And so the sewer was the same?
Exact same.
And if it was, it's my fault, because I saw the fact that they had a 5-foot buffer zone against a residential against a residential, and it didn't need to be 25. And that's what I noted, so.
Which is why we eliminated one of the lots.
And that's true, they did eliminate a lot.
They did, yeah.
But, and just to point out, this is the preliminary plat. We're still required to get all the approvals that the review engineers for the parish ensure we get before they'll approve the construction plans. Sewer is part of the construction plan review.
I don't doubt that. But in this particular situation with the problems that exist over there with drainage and sewer, I want to be sure before we approve anything to go any further that everybody's on the same page.
Sending it back to planning commission, the planning commission doesn't review sewer.
They've already, yeah.
That's part of the construction plan review that your review engineers review.
Can it be approved contingency upon?
We can defer it till they get a letter from the sewer district. How about that?
I like that.
For what?
I'm not sure what the point of a deferment is. If you make it contingent upon getting the
Well,
letter.
it may not take a whole month, that's the point.
I mean, if we just defer it and you get the letter, you can be back in 3 weeks.
Contingent upon a letter?
2 weeks.
If you make it contingent upon the letter.
Then what?
Bring it back, bring it back with the letter that says where you're gonna tie into, and the sewer district
And
signs
they're
off
okay
on
with
it, will be approved.
That's
Come back in 3 weeks with a letter from the sewer district that says where you're going, and they approve it, and we'll sign off on it. That's all I can do.
Okay.
That's the way I feel.
Well,
I mean, now, if y'all wanna vote me down, that's y'all's option.
Isn't that the same thing as approving it contingent on that letter?
It's the same thing. Like, what's the difference? We have to abide by whatever regulations are
In
there
other words, what
anyway.
he's asking is if they get the letter tomorrow,
It's approved.
So
Contingent upon that
I
letter.
mean, you're okay with it as long as
That's
it's
fine.
approved.
If they get a letter from the sewer district identifying that it'll work where they're going with, then we can
And you
approve it.
made sure that way you've taken care of people that live there now, and that's what we gotta work.
That's fine.
I
If
agree.
that's what they want to do, that's fine. I'll amend my motion to say, if they get a letter from the sewer district that they're acceptable as to where y'all want to go with it, they say it'll work, then I'm good with it.
I second that motion.
Yeah, and you won't have.
All
to
right,
come
so
back.
we have a motion on the floor by
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gary Frog Talbot, exactly what he said.
Identify the name of the sewer district.
Livingston Parish Sewer District.
We have a second by John Wascom to approve this preliminary plat
think it was
based on
about
those
6
conditions.
Is there any objection?
Is there any objection? I call for the vote.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Robel.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Gurleyhouse.
Yes.
Mr. Arroyo.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
All right.
So with that being said, if we do get this letter, it does not have to come back to the council.
Right, y'all can just do y'all's thing with the review and go.
No plan.
Yeah, again.
No plan, no nothing.
If the engineering firm gets a letter from the sewer district that says where they're going with the sewer and it'll work, then we're done. It's never, they can just move forward. But they can't move forward until they get that letter and get it to Sammy Plan or Natalie Plan.
Thank you, guys. You know, I know it's tough. I know it is.
Can we start at 6 o'clock next time?
No, sir.
We're gonna go ahead and amend it to 7, Mr. Sam.
Sam, your section is taking the most time.
Well, when you was younger, you stayed up late Sam, when you were younger, you stayed up late at night. We're trying to make you feel
That's the
younger.
reason why I'd like to have a vote in there.
Maybe next time.
Okay, item 14F.
Subdivision with improvements. Whispering Springs 1st through 9th filing. Revised preliminary plat. This is in Mr. Jeff Ard's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the revised preliminary plat for Whispering Springs 1 through 9 filings.
Yep, that's me. I rode through here the other day. Anybody's out around this area, I would ask you to drive through there. It's amazing what they've done there. I mean, it really looks good. They're making a nice entrance. Houses are coming up. They're doing everything right. All the roads, curbs, gutters, lighting. I mean, everything's done right. And when we took office, this was a couple old ponds with some old beat up roads,
Wrong
concrete
roadway
had blocked
there.
off,
Yeah.
all grown up. That, I think it had become a mud riding track is all it was. So what they've done is very, very nice for our parish. So I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to accept this preliminary plat for Whispering Springs. It's a revised preliminary plat. We have a second by Mr. Scooter King. Did I say Jason?
Morgan.
I mean Jeff's name?
You did.
Jeff Ard made that motion. Scooter King made the second. Is there any more discussion?
Morgan, how many entrances you got in this plat?
It's 3.
Okay, I see the one in the Spring Lake and I see the one on Highway 1019, or is it 10?
Both state highways.
Okay, so there's a 1019, 1024, and
No, 447. right?
I think it's each.
We discussed that last night.
There's 3. There's 3.
1019, 1042, 1024, and Spring Lake?
Yeah, that's it,
Okay.
that's it, yeah.
That's, I just want to make sure it met the connectivity part of the
All
ordinance.
right, any more discussion? Any objection? All approved? Say aye.
Aye.
Move on.
Okay.
G.
Well, I wish it was all like that.
Next on your agenda is a waiver for number of lots on the servitude.
Where is this?
This is Mr. Shane Mack's district, Edney Kitchen Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the waiver for the number of lots on a servitude for Chris Kraft.
Okay, guys, let me give you a little bit of information. This is in my district. Okay, there's a nice gravel road. The ditches on both sides that are deep. All right, it's off of Edna Kitchen Road, this gravel road. And I would say there's probably, just off the top of my head, 4 or 5 lots on the right side of the road, maybe 6, 4 or 5 lots on the left. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Maybe there's 3 or 4, but the fact is this gentleman has 7 acres at the very end. He owns all 7 acres. Right across that particular road, he's at the dead end of the road on the left. Right across that road is a couple of lots. And if you divide this lot that he's planning to divide, what it does is just makes everything symmetric. This would be the very last lot that would be subdivided in that area. And it's going to make it look all uniform. I would also like to point out the fact that this is in flood zone X, land out in that area, and flood zone X is very hard to come by.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this would be a good divide.
I'll make that
So,
motion.
we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Scooter King. We have a second by Jeff Avery. Is there any more discussion? Is there any objection?
Is this the first time this has been subdivided, or?
It was
This
subdivided in
particular piece of-
November of 18 was the last map. So the map that The map that you're looking at now that draws a line was a map that was approved, looks like in November, is that 10 or 18?
This particular piece of property that this gentleman owns, he has never subdivided it.
Oh, yeah, so
More
it's
than-
10, so it hadn't been subdivided in 8 years, so it really isn't a waiver.
This isn't the one that, okay, all right.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay?
I'm waiting.
So, any more discussion?
Note at the bottom. Survey will be required for waiver spring.
He didn't spend any money to get the engineer to draw it up, have a survey. They
They just
drew
drew
a
a
line.
line.
If we approve the line drawing and the waiver, then they gonna get an official map done for Sam and them to sign on.
Does that need to be included in the resolution?
Well, they can't, until they bring an official
gonna have
map,
to.
they can't get it signed off on anything.
He just wanted to make sure.
So is there any objection? All approved, say aye. Aye. All right. Next one.
Okay, guys, this is another waiver for Mr. Aaron Guitro and Ashton Guitro on a number of lots on the servitude. This is in Mr. Jeff Avery's district, Thornton Lane. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the waiver on the number of lots on the servitude for Aaron and Ashton Guitro. I might say this is already something that's been there for a long time. It was 9 lots on it previous. They're just adding one more, which does create a waiver. This is on a non-parish road, so with a 40-foot servitude, and that 40-foot servitude is within our 1,056 distance. So,
Timber company's land, so.
And I have something to say on this one. It's in my district. I know these boys, grew up with their mom and dad. They bought 50 or 60 acres of land back there, and it's all family, and they just want a road to their land. That's all they need.
No
it's
problem.
all family, and they were all at the planning commission.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve this division of property with the waiver. We have a second by, that motion was made by Jeff Avery, by the way. We have a second by
I'll second.
Mr. Bubba Harris. Any objection? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, next one.
Okay, next on your agenda is a servitude revocation. Melissa Martin Clark. This is in Mr. Tab Lobell's district. South Frost Road. Now, it is a recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve this servitude revocation for Miss Melissa. But my question would be to Miss Sandy, we required a form to be sent to you guys for his.
I don't
so
think you
it'd be
got
in
it.
We
place
have-
of these-
Did you get it
Did that
all?
happen, Miss Sandy? No, sir.
Take
So, we need to table it and move it to the next.
Okay, item 14I is being tabled. All right, item 14J.
Okay, next, commercial development. This is also in Mr. Tabb's district. Plaza 22 West preliminary site plan. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Plaza 22 West with a waiver on doing limestone for the RV storage.
Yeah, this is down by Diversion Canal, and it's gonna be retail in the front and in the back. They're gonna have RV and boat storage area, so have limestone in that area, so I'd like to make that motion.
All right, we have a gentleman in the audience that would like to say something about this particular item.
Oh, by the way, I'm Larry O'Neill, and I live on Petite Drive in Marpole. And Tab, Mr. Lobell, I didn't get to see the site plan on this particular lot here. I'm all for the development. We need all the development we can in our district. We need the tax base for our schools, libraries, so on and so forth. I talked to the developer on the phone and was questioning about the retention ponds that we just passed a resolution, or you did, last council meeting about the 25 and 100-year retention. His comments was they were going to use the parking lot for the retention. And also the question was whether they were grandfathered in under the old council ordinances or under this council ordinance we have passed today, and that's in force today. I don't know, like I say, I haven't seen the site prep, whether they do comply with the new one or they did comply with the old. I don't think the intent of retention is to use a parking lot for retention, or am I wrong with that?
Okay, we have a gentleman in the back that would like to maybe answer those questions for us.
Yeah, I'm Michael Obama, was supposed to do that. No, and it's a little bit further than that, but we still have to do our drainage impact study. So this is just a preliminary site plan. My engineer's going to do the drainage impact study, but the plan is about the front half of the property naturally drains to Highway 22. So we're going to use some retainage in the parking lot to, I guess, slow that water before it gets into the Highway 22 ditch. The back of the property naturally flows to the back of the property. So that's where we're still planning on
Holding the retention.
well, building a retention pond there. But, so
As you also know, I'm the Gravity Drainage District, although we don't have any money. But anything we do in our district that will affect our district, we need to make sure it doesn't have an adverse effect. And as you know, every little bit of development in and of itself is not a major effect, but all these little pieces together do have an effect on us. So I want to make sure this development doesn't have an effect.
And on the site plan, Mike, you got a lot of room in the back. I mean, it's open. It's not going to be RV storage or anything. It's just open
correct.
ground,
The
right?
back one,
Yeah.
the back 1/3 of the property is not going to be developed. It's going to stay woods.
But is it going to hold water, or is it just going to drain off into the canals?
It drains naturally now through that area back into the swamp.
But what I'm saying is if he does,
that
if he
was my
does need a
question.
retention pond or something, there is room on the plat to put it.
And I just want to make sure it doesn't have an adverse effect on the surrounding properties and the community as a whole.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mike, y'all plan on following the new drainage impact study requirements?
Mr. Larry asked me that question, and I don't really know the answer to that question. I need to kind of default to my engineer.
Actually, if they had made a submittal to planning prior to that Monday, because Layton signed the ordinance that Monday, so it went into effect that Monday. So any submittals prior to that Monday would fall under the old ordinance.
Okay.
So, and I don't think there's been any submittals from Morgan since we did that ordinance. There've been no submittals at planning.
So you know this one would fall.
So this one would fall under the old ordinance.
Okay.
All right, we have any more discussion? We have a motion on the floor by Tab Lobel to approve the preliminary plat for Plaza 22 West.
I'll second.
We have a second by Tracy Girlinghouse. Any objections? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Item number 15. Addition of roads for consideration to the capital outlay priority road list. 15A Petty A Meat Drive, Mr. Tab Lobel.
Down in Marpole, I just want to get that on the list and get it scored.
All right, is that a motion?
That's a
I
motion.
second it.
There's a second by John Wascom. Any discussion? Any objections? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Getting better.
Hey, I don't need to run off.
16.
It's only 8.
It's past Sam's bedtime. What you gonna?
I'll call you in the morning, Mr. Sam, about 7 o'clock.
Ratify Fire Protection District Number 4. At-large board member.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Jeff Owens.
This is Mr. Jeff Ard's district?
Yes, the, Fire District Number 4 had their meeting, and, they asked that we ratify Mr. Robert Dugas back to the board, ratify their choice to ratify him back on the board. So
Okay.
I'll make that motion to reappoint Mr.
Ratify
Robert
that.
Dugas.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Jeff Ard to ratify Fire Protection District Number 4 at-large board member, Mr. Jeff Dugas.
Robert
Dugas. Okay, we have a second by, who was it? Tracy Girlinghouse. Any objections? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, done. 17. Set a speed limit on the south side of Red Oak Road at 45 miles an hour. Tab Lobel.
It's one of those roads that
Side where?
didn't really have south side of I-12.
Okay.
didn't have an official speed limit, I guess, documented. So this is just so that people, if they stop someone in that section of road, they can know what the speed limit is. That's right. So 45 south of the interstate, all except for the extreme southern end where there's two 90-degree curves.
That's where the bad curve.
Right before where it hits Highway 42. So that's going to be 10 through there. But up to that point, it'll be 45.
Okay,
Can we go 10?
I don't think,
You can try.
I think
let your foot off gas, go more than that.
So anyway, so is that a motion right there?
That is a motion.
Mr. Talbot, what'd you say about going 10 miles an hour? Your truck won't
I
idle
don't
that
think
slow.
mine idle 10 mile an hour.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Tab to make that on the south side of Red Oak Road to make a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. We got a second by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. Is there any more discussion? No. Any objections? No. All in favor? Aye. All right, 18. Place a four-way stop sign at Ranchero Circle and Fairlane Drive in Lando Pines. This is Mr. Maurice Scooter King.
That's me. I got a call about, you know, they're building a new subdivision behind the old Fairlane, Land of Pines. They're building Fairlane Farms, and it's gonna be quite a substantial subdivision, and they're using their old road to come out on. It's the only entrance and exit to this thing. And the people that have been living there their whole life are, you know, complaining people flying through, so that was the best place to put a four-way stop sign. And it's, we need to bring it to us to make it legal, so that if the sheriff or anybody writes a ticket, they can't challenge
Have the
it.
signs been put up already?
Signs are already in place. It was done less than 10 hours after I called DPW. Those signs were in place. It was amazing. The guy called me back. He goes, "Oh my gosh."
Ms. Sandy, does this need
It
to be
takes me
ordinance?
6 months to get a sign. Quick.
Oh, you got it. You and
I'm
Bubba just need to call me and give me a
I'm
text
really
what
just
you need.
kidding.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
That's a motion on the floor to place a four-way stop sign at Ranchero Circle and Fairlane Drive. Any objections?
John second.
Oh, John seconded?
Yeah.
Good job. Mr. John Wascom seconded that motion. Any objections? All in favor? Aye. All right. 19. Request for a waiver intended for the allowance of permitting due to the restrictions of LP number 17-22, section 13-46.1, prohibitions and restrictions of use for mobile manufactured homes to be placed in a named subdivision for the intent of on-site custom-built single-family homes. This is in Mr. Gary Frog Talbert's district.
I recommend we grant the waiver because there are already trailers in the subdivision.
So that's
I'll
a motion.
second it.
That's a motion.
Wait a minute, were they there prior to the flood?
Yeah, they were.
Go ahead and ask that. There were trailers there.
I own a couple lots around the corner.
Oh, well, that's,
No, I mean, I own a couple lots around the
So he
corner,
knows.
which is in actually a different named subdivision, but you go through Old Live Oak to get to where I own a couple lots. There are trailers, plenty of trailers. It's not like we're gonna be doing a disservice to the people that live there.
it's your district.
Nice.
I second it.
Okay.
Already did. You missed it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Gary Frog Talbert to grant this waiver. We have a second by John Wascom.
Hey.
Any more discussion? Any objection? All in favor? Aye. All right. Item number 20, District Attorney Report. We have no report.
Okay, good.
Item number 21, Committee Reports. Ordinance Committee, Mr. Chair Gary Frog Talbot.
Well, we met today at 5:15 and used the entire hour. We had a discussion about, we had a request from Fire District 4 about help with gaining electronic files. We found out we have an ordinance in place that really deals with that. We're just gonna make sure make sure that we get all the communication down, and if we need to amend the ordinance at a later date to make those files available to everybody that need them, we'll do that. We had a discussion of putting a committee together to study implementation of the master plan or some portion of the master plan. We had a discussion about speed bumps and maybe creating an ordinance with respect to, you know, how many people you need on a particular street, you know, to approve them. I don't know how many signatures you need. is there a design standard we want to go with, whatever, just preliminary discussions. And we read an email from a constituent who had requested to discuss with us about noise, but then after reading the noise ordinance, felt that he wasn't prepared to discuss, but we read his email anyway. And so we'll meet again in 3 weeks at 5:15. No, actually 5:30, because we don't have an ordinance committee, finance committee meeting, so we'll meet at 5:30 in 3 weeks.
All right, good report. Finance committee meeting, Tracy Girlinghouse, Mr. Chair, Tracy.
Well, my discussion won't be as long. Ms. Jennifer gave us the finances for the month, and so far we got required from the beginning of the year, so it's still, I think, slightly incomplete.
Yeah.
But the numbers at this point are slightly above her projections, and we all know how stingy she is on her projections. So we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. So yeah,
Good
numbers are
report.
looking good.
Good report. Are there any councilman comments? No? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll offer that.
We have a motion by Mr. Bubba Harris to adjourn this meeting. We have a second. Well, he raised his hand. He was fast on the draw. Scooter King
Yeah, let's go.
seconded that motion. So is there any objections that we adjourn this meeting? All
Happy
in favor?
Valentine's.
Ah.